Hi everyone, welcome back to the More Than Just Mindfulness podcast series. So for the second podcast in the series, what I thought I'd do is a session that I recorded a couple of weeks ago. The weather's still reasonable, and so you can still get out and meditate out in nature, out in a park, outside. And what this is just a session that I did in the park when we don't have access to the venues that I normally teach in, sometimes in the summer. Instead we go and meditate in the park. And this was a nice introduction to meditating in open spaces and out in nature, places like parks. It's a different experience, and you'll discover all about it in this session. Don't forget to subscribe to whichever channel you use to get here. So the perfect meditation for outside is the meditation of no meditation. So it's better to not meditate. It's better to cast your mind to the furthest sound, wherever that is, whatever it is. And what that's doing is that's giving you an idea of the dome of all sound that you can hear. But not just in the direction of the distant sound, which right now is an airplane, but that dome of sound spreads around us in every direction. The modern mind gets drawn from one sound to another. So, there's a bird. There's the wind in the trees, there's the airplane, there's the traffic in the distance, there's somebody clapping. What it's trying to do is identify everything. But the non-modern mind is listening to all sound. So the difference is like the difference between listening to individual instruments while an orchestra is playing or listening to the entire orchestra. When we're listening to the orchestra, we allow the composer to choose whether our mind is drawn to an individual instrument or whether it's aware of the sound that the entire orchestra makes because it's playing the theme of the composition. And so the meditation of no meditation for sound is simply listening to the theme of the composition of all sound. And then from time to time, individual sounds become prominent and our mind might be drawn to it, and then we can come back and we can notice all the sound. So the meditation of no meditation of sound is just allowing all sound into our experience. And one thing that noticing all sound does is it gives us a sense of being at the centre of all of that sound, a sense of place which is here. Because if we close our eyes, which almost invariably people do when they're doing this, you don't have to, you can look down at the ground and still not be distracted by anything. And what we're doing is orienting ourselves in our environment through sound. And so the sound is like waves washing over us. Because it arises and subsides. No two moments ever have the same sound in them, ever. So this is an experience of openness, allowing our awareness to be open to all sounds and not fixed on a sound. What I'll do is every so often, to add to the sounds, I'll sound the bell. Just listening. That's all we're doing. Just listening. We're noticing the mind move to individual sounds, and we're noticing it allowing in all sound. The instrument and the orchestra. And if you wish, you don't have to, you can move over to noticing the movement of the belly. So this is just another element, or an alternative, depending on how you look at it. And in the same way, we're just allowing all sound into our awareness and noticing that it arises and subsides and noticing it passing through our awareness. We can also notice the movement of the belly just at the point where the belly meets the chest. And again, there's no instructions, there's no expectations, no goals. These exercises, which aren't meditations, they're the meditation of no meditation. They don't bring us anything. Other than the ability to know that we can do something without an expectation or a goal or an outcome. So either all sound, we're attuning our ear to the sound of the orchestra, or the movement of the belly, which is like a single instrument, and all the belly's doing is rising and falling, nothing else. So if you have your eyes closed, if you open your eyes, there's a sense of allowing the experience of the sound into our awareness that's very soft and gentle. And you can do the same with whatever it is you see. So if you're looking up, you see the clouds, you see the sky. If you're looking around you, you see the birds, crows and a magpie, trees, people. And we can allow that into our awareness in the same way. So when you're doing this, because we've got the sound and we've got what we can see, and there's the physiological sensations, feeling of sitting, the feeling of the wind, the smell of the park, this is known as open awareness meditation. It isn't really a meditation, it's an experience of allowing ourselves to be aware of what we can perceive. And so now if the visual elements of your experience draw you into them so deeply that it triggers your mind into a train of thoughts and your mind starts wandering and so on and so forth, you can just close your eyes for a moment and notice all sound, which is a way of bringing yourself back to here, very gently. And then open your eyes again. And notice there's a different quality to it. All sound, the hubbub of sound, and whatever it is you can see. Whatever you can see has an urgency to it. The need to see around us. And what you need to do is to become comfortable with that. If you're comfortable with it, then the experience of looking around you, the thing that we call resting in open awareness and perceiving all of your present moment experiences, that experience can become as gentle as noticing all sound, as the meditation of no meditation for sound. Remembering, of course, that you can always come back to the meditation of no meditation for sound. But then you can open your eyes. So this works better in nature somewhere where there are no human artifacts, because they have a tendency to trigger memories and thought processes. Whereas if all you're looking at is something natural like the sky, it's easier. Or you're in nature, and as you look around you, you can't see any human artifacts or even any human beings. This is one of the reasons that people visit solitary places to meditate, as there are no associations. So there's less chance of the mind being drawn into a cycle of thought about whatever it sees: judgment, comparison, memories, expectations, the future, the past, whatever. And so we're not trying to not think, because thought is part of what happens in the present moment in the same way that the clouds are. You can look at all awareness, as Mingyur Rinpoche says, as the sky. And sometimes, of course, you can't see the sky because of the clouds, and it's the same. Your awareness is always there, but sometimes you're not aware of anything external because the mind is busy. It's like the clouds in the sky. But they all pass, and the sky becomes blue. And so the mind becomes foggy, and then the mind becomes clear and calm. And this experience, open awareness meditation, this is where we notice all of that. It's where we become familiar with it the most, because it's so much like everyday experience, but a slightly different quality to it. And so the thing to do with the internal experience is to allow yourself to become comfortable with however you're feeling and whatever thoughts are arising, but notice that that's only part of your experience. It's all the other parts of your experience, what you can feel, the sensation of sitting or lying, the feeling of the wind, what you can smell, what you can hear, what you can see around you, and then there's the thoughts and the emotions. It's all one thing. It's one operating within one awareness. They're all elements of our experience within our awareness. And in the same way, if the eye gets drawn to something and it triggers a thought and a train of thoughts and the mind wanders, you come back and you notice all sound and notice the movement of the belly. The same thing can happen if you're drawn into an emotion or your mind just pops up with thoughts, with a train of thought, with memories.
with images of the future, with scenarios, whatever it does. You notice that, just keep coming back to being here. The physical sensation, how it feels. And what you can hear. And whenever you're ready, in your very own time, just end the meditation. There's two kinds of mindfulness meditation. There's focused attention. So let's say we're doing following the breath. Not what we were doing, the meditation of no meditation for the breath. That's not a meditation. But if you take following the breath, where we're noticing the breath and then the mind wanders and we bring our attention back to the breath again and repeat that, that's focused attention meditation. And the other sort of meditation is open awareness, and that's what we were doing just now. And you'll notice the whole combination of experience is available to you, but the old patterns of what you focus on repeat. So, for instance, if you think you've got something to worry about or something to do, and then that will keep popping up into your mind and your mind will keep being drawn to that, that's just an old pattern. Notice that that's happened. It's not about, with the breath, anything that happens that stops you from noticing the breath, the answer is to come back to the breath. With open awareness, if the mind runs a thought pattern or dredges up a memory or an emotion, you're just aware of it happening. There's nowhere to go because it's part of your experience, so you're noticing it happening within your experience. But the key to it is to notice that it's only a part of your experience and it's not all there is. The mind can be drawn into a difficult place and it's like that's all there is, and you forget you're in the park, you don't feel anything, you can't smell it, there's no sound, there's no taste, there's just that one thing. One of my students says her thoughts consume her, which I thought is a very apt way of putting it. Our thoughts can consume us, and we're not aware of being here. What's happening there when the mind gets drawn into something, that's unawareness, and all we're doing is we're being aware of it. That's the answer to unawareness, is to be aware of it. In the same way, that's the answer to unhelpful thought patterns, repetitive, persistent, uncomfortable emotions. It's just to be aware of it. But aware of it not as an all-encompassing thing that draws us into it, but as part of our experience. So if I have an uncomfortable emotion and I walk into the park, I can feel the grass, I can smell the grass, I can see the trees, I can feel the wind, I can listen to the birds, listen to the wind in the trees. I can do all of that, and part of my experience is the uncomfortable emotion. The uncomfortable emotion and the thoughts, they're like clouds. So they enter our awareness and then they're there for a while and then they subside. Arise, subside. The breath arises, subsides. Fears and worries arise and subside. What were you worrying about 5 years ago? Notice. So one of the best solutions for worry is to write them down for the sake of posterity. So you can look back at it in the future and think, what was I actually worried about that? So one helpful way to experience open awareness is by running through all of the elements of the present moment experience. There's a thing called grounding. So what we'll do is we'll ground ourselves. And this is useful because here we are in the park and there's a lot of sensory input, but you might be stuck in a dark room all on your own. So how do you do open awareness in a dark room? Well, this is how. Works in a park as well, of course. And begin by noticing the force of gravity, which we never notice. If you're not sure about that, just ask your friends next time you see them. Say, did you notice the force of gravity today? If they answer at all, they'll say no. Notice it pushing us down into the ground. There are a number of effects. One is we need to balance to stay upright. And so balance is part of our response to gravity. And then there's the sense of being pushed into the ground. There's the weight of the body being pushed into the ground. And then there's the body being pulled down. The best place to notice that is your shoulders. So if you're sitting up, what you do is you just place your elbows by your side and tip your chin up a bit, and you'll notice that you'll have been being pulled forward by gravity. Your arms probably in front of you, your shoulders dipping forward and your head leaning forward. When we adopt a balanced posture, all of that becomes obvious. So there's the connection with the earth. There's the feeling of the body, the shoulders, the head being pulled downwards. There's balance. We've got a sense of place. So even with our eyes closed, we know where we are in the park. So as the children walk past talking, we know where they are. Whether they're to the right of us or the left of us, or they're walking in front of us. And we know where the tree is. We know where the entrance is to the park, where the car park is. It's a thing called vestibular awareness. We're aware of the environment around us. It's a sense. And it comes from everything, sound, sight, bringing us this information. And then we're aware of our body. So if we're sitting, we know one leg's under the other, or whether we're sitting cross-legged, or we know where our body is. If we were to move our hand up in front of us with the eyes closed, we'd know when it was at eye height. So that's a thing called proprioception. So vestibular awareness is an awareness of the environment, and proprioception is an awareness of where the body is in that environment. What's around us all adds up. And then there's our inner state, whether we're warm or cool. And with a reasonably warm day but a cool breeze, so parts of our body are cool and parts of our body are warm. Notice the difference. Cool part, warm part. Notice if we're relaxed or tense. To release the tension, breathe in normally. When you breathe out, relax the eyes, tongue against the back of the front teeth, against the sharp part of the bottom teeth. Relax the jaw, relax the shoulders and hands, all on the out breath. Breathing in normally, breathing out, relaxing the body. So we become aware of our tension by relaxing it. And are we comfortable or uncomfortable? And if we are uncomfortable, where's the discomfort? And where's the comfort? What parts of the body are comfortable? And are we tired or alert? And there's also the sensory experience of the ground, the grass, the wind. And then again back to listening. Cast the mind to the furthest sound, and then allow all sound into our awareness, the hubbub of all sound. And whatever it is we can smell, and whatever we can taste, and whatever thoughts there are. So notice that thought isn't different, it's part of our experience. We can notice the wind, we can notice the thought, we can notice the sound of the airplane, we can notice the thought, we can notice our comfort or discomfort, we can notice the thought, notice the sound of the bird, notice the thought. And if there's any emotion, how does it feel? Notice it's a feeling in the body. You can feel the coolness of the wind. You can feel the emotion. Wind, emotion. Comfort or discomfort, emotion. Tension, emotion. Smell, emotion. Whatever you can see. And all of this added up together, that's the orchestra playing the theme of the present moment. It's the combination of all of the elements of our experience. What happens, of course, we're drawn into one, whatever it might happen to be, what we're looking at or what we're thinking about, or, maybe, very rarely, what we can smell or taste or hear, and nothing else. But there's so much. And all it does, like a good orchestral theme, is it arises and subsides. And so the most useful place to come, if the pull of the mind is very powerful, is back to the breath, wherever it's the most comfortable for you. Because the breath, because it's part of the body, is what Eckhart Tolle calls a portal into the present moment. Because the mind is taking us somewhere, past or future, judgments, comparisons, whatever it happens to be doing, looking for approval, usually, somewhere, in some way, wanting to fit in, whatever it's, going over things in the past, what's going to happen, what people are going to say, what they're going to think, all of that. So the pull of that's very powerful. But to get back into this experience of now, that's where the breath comes in. So when you find the pull of the mind to be very powerful, this is why we do following the breath, why we do focused attention, is to train our minds to become aware that they've been drawn into a scenario within the mind. But the breath is part of the present moment, the sensory bubble of the present moment, what we can see, hear, smell, touch, taste, feel, and all of these other elements of the present moment. And so to do open awareness, you're allowing your mind to go free and noticing if it becomes pulled into something. And if you choose, you can come back and notice the breath. So you can end the meditation in your very, very own time. But when you end the meditation, there's no need to change your state. If you become familiar enough with open awareness, you can do it wherever you are. So you can be talking to somebody, you can still be aware of everything they're saying, but you're doing it from being within your experience rather than in the mind, where the mind is trying to interpret what they're saying. For whatever reason it chooses to interpret it, in whatever way it chooses to interpret it. And instead you're aware, you're here, and you're listening to what somebody's saying. And that's part of your experience. So now, this is where meditation becomes life, and life becomes meditation with open awareness. The meditation of no meditations, great way into it. But getting comfortable with open awareness is probably more useful because it's closer to what it's like for most of us, for most of our lives. So it's like what happens in the day, just we're aware in a different way.
So I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to whatever channel you use to get here. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send them to me, info@bromleymindfulness.org.uk, or through any of the usual social channels. Thanks.